Hey, welcome back, and today I'm gonna be revealing paladins. So, don't worry about that.
Hey guys, so yesterday Hi-Rez came out with a new game called Paladins. Now people are saying this is ripping off of Overwatch because you have the guy with the bow, you have a guy with a jetpack who shoots missiles down, but what people don't get is that these are two completely different games, okay? In Overwatch, you usually have to capture an objective point and then push a payload. Now, in Paladins, they have a whole new character called Molkar. He's a turtle, and what's cool about him is that he can pull the enemy to him with a chain and take him out at close range. And then you have a guy like Androxus, who is just this badass guy with a revolver. And he can left click to shoot one bullet, or he can right click and unload the whole clip. And the thing about Paladins is that everyone rides into the map on a horse. You know, that's an idea I haven't seen in a video game before. And it just kind of pisses me off to see people comparing Overwatch, which is just your typical team-based FPS, you know, to a game like Paladins, which is way faster, it's way crazier, and there's all these really creative characters like Soldier 87. Now, the thing about him is that he can actually sprint to move faster than the other characters, and you just don't see that dynamic in Overwatch. I'm sorry, but you just don't see that level of creativity there. Meanwhile, in Paladins, you have these loot chests that actually unlock skins for your characters, like Barrick here. Barrick! And what's cool about this guy is that he can actually shoot molten lava out of his gun, and he can build turrets. I mean, I'm sorry, you're just not going to see that in Overwatch. And then you have a guy who is called Evie, and she can actually turn into an ice cube whenever she wants. And then you have this guy who can jump really high up. And then you have Alfonso. Now, I know you're thinking, Reinhardt, right? No. He has a flamethrower, okay? And he can charge. And what's really cool about this guy is that he gets this big shield.
So I'm gonna watch this real quick.
Overwatch has been a wild success, selling millions in its first few weeks, surpassing League of Legends in gaming cafes, blowing up YouTube channels and Twitch streams. Thanks, by the way. It's safe to say that Blizzard once again struck gold. And just like when anything else becomes popular, there will be people who try to replicate and emulate that success. But before we talk about Overwatch clones, we should address the elephant in the room. And this is, of course, Team Fortress. This is ridiculous, it's such a copy. This also goes hand in hand with what we see in some developers overseas where they don't care about copyrights. I mean, one of the most popular games in the East is a straight up ripoff of Counter-Strike. That is literally what it is, and it's one of the highest grossing games that exist, period. It's kind of crazy. But that stuff aside, you know, that's kind of an anomaly. We don't expect most developers to go to this extent to have a direct ripoff, a direct copy of another game. Now, it was later determined that this was evidently not a game they planned to sell. The dev was just making a tech demo and testing what they could actually run on mobile devices, which, as an aside, let's say if you could get something like this running on mobile devices, that's kind of impressive. Like a low poly version of Overwatch on a mobile platform. Hey, it's kind of neat. So let's look at some others that have taken some clear inspiration. Just recently, we saw the open beta start for Paladins, a game that is also a hero shooter. And there are some big similarities in some of the heroes. For example, we've got a big burly hero who has a hook, there's a flying hero who shoots rockets, a knight with a giant blue rectangular shield, and a dwarf who builds a turret. However, beyond those hero design and some of the kit similarities, Paladins is a very, very different game. It, first of all, plays very differently, the game modes are quite different, and well, it's not as polished, let's be honest here, but that's, you know, it's still in beta, so it's got time to improve. Paladins is one of these kind of closest games that you see a lot of people saying are a ripoff, are a copy. But again, beyond those hero designs, there's not that much similar between the two. And then we of course have Battleborn, which you could draw some similarities to a few of the heroes, but beyond that, Battleborn is nothing like Overwatch because Battleborn is essentially a MOBA. It features lanes, towers, creep, and in-game items that you equip, which Overwatch has none of those things, and these are all core components to Battleborn. One of Battleborn's biggest problems was that it launched at about the same time as Overwatch. It was in that same window. And that's really unfortunate because it buried a game that I think had some pretty good merit on its own. I enjoyed it. But there were so many people drawing those comparisons and saying, oh, what a ripoff, what a copy of Overwatch, they should be ashamed, etc., etc. And in many ways, I think it's just a little unjust. And these are just a few of the recent examples. There will no doubt in the coming months and years ahead be many more titles that people compare to Overwatch. Is that really a problem? Look, everyone who creates something draws on their life experience and outside inspiration. You're gonna be hard-pressed to find any truly 100% original ideas. Just in our daily lives, our thoughts, our opinions on things, the language that we know, our religion, our thoughts on society and politics and all of those things. This is all a process of osmosis from the world around us, people telling us things and teaching us things, us digesting them and then regurgitating our own opinions and thoughts on the matter, all of which, for the most part, were said or thought by someone else in the past as well. And video games are no different. Just like Overwatch itself has drawn inspiration from a game like Team Fortress 2, or even drawing inspiration from MOBAs with the design of its heroes, other games will draw inspiration from Overwatch. This happens with every game that becomes successful. People try to emulate it. Need I remind you of all of the MOBAs that came out of the success of the original Dota, or the MMO clones that came out of World of Warcraft's success? This is just a process of iteration and adjustment and tuning. There are people to try to put their own spin on things that are working, formulas that are successful. Now, some copy more than others. I'm looking at you, Legend of Titan, with that blatant Overwatch ripoff. But overall, I think we should worry less about how games are similar and focus more on how they are different. What does a game bring to the table that is special or unique? Because all games will draw inspiration from something else that exists, and just focusing on that is kind of a non-starter. Overwatch isn't itself a fresh idea that no one's ever thought of, but Blizzard put its own twist on it, developed its own heroes and story, has some nice polished gameplay, and in and of itself, that whole package becomes its own special thing. And all of these other games that we want to point to and just dismiss as Overwatch clones, they all have their own unique special thing as well. So I don't think we should just outright dismiss them. I love Overwatch. It is by far, hands down, my favorite game of the moment. I also am always interested in checking out new games, and it always saddens me to see people dismiss things as clones or copies without giving them a fair shake or without really looking into what makes those games unique. Because you could have said the exact same thing about Overwatch, TF2 copying or copying MOBAs with the heroes with skills and ultimate abilities. And if you wrote that off, then you wouldn't be enjoying it now, as I'm assuming many of you are, because I've got a lot of followers who play Overwatch. Alright, my friends, that is going to do it for me here today as we talk about Overwatch clones and how I think we should maybe view things a little bit differently. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, I'll see you later.